Hello, everyone. So, this is Habitat Defenders. So, first things first, what is Habitat Defenders? Habitat Defenders is an environmental tower defense game where your goal is to protect various native habitats using the power of various native species. But to start, let's have the team introduce themselves, starting with the programmers.
Hi, I'm Max Intrilligator. I was one of the programmers. My education is that I'm currently in my junior year at Mesa Community College working on my associates in computer science.
Hello there. My name is Ryan Regala. I'm a rising senior at UC San Diego studying cognitive science with a specialization in design and interaction. And my favorite native species is the black bear.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brandon Isai Castellon. I graduated from California State University of Fullerton in the year of 2023 with a Bachelor's of Fine Arts, specifying in the entertainment of the arts. And my favorite animal is the mule deer.
Hello, I'm Jupiter Defibaugh. I'm a current graphic design major at MiraCosta, and I have a certification in software quality assurance. My favorite native species is the black phoebe, but I'm also a California condor fan.
All right, and for the last two.
Hello, my name is Ryan Bell. I am a rising senior at UCSD in the nanoengineering field with a specialization in biological sciences. My favorite species is the coyote, which you can find roaming UCSD at nighttime pretty often.
All right, and I am Jeffrey Yang. I'm the project manager on this team, and I'm a second-year graduate student getting my master's in game development and game design and development at USC. And my favorite native species is the red-tailed hawk. Also, our client, Matt Lewandowski. He's a game designer and developer working at the intersection of education and gaming. He currently also builds interactive museum exhibits, and he's a data engineer at Game Discover Co. But now let's have each of the team talk a little bit about what they did for the project.
All right, so I was one of the artists on the team. I mostly worked on the native and invasive plant species. You can see two of the placeable sprites on the screen. And then I did a lot of simple UI, like the cursor. I worked on some upgrade screens. The process of the art, I mostly tried to copy the other artist's style so it felt more consistent, which was thankfully pretty simple, and it helped the game look more cohesive, mostly just cell shading and then adding simple grain on top of a lot of the sprites helped kind of give it a more authentic feel.
Hello. So, for what I worked on is the character designs for the native / invasive species and for the creature dens as well. And also specifically for the native species, I worked on their character shape / color, as you can see with like some of the from like the character lineup for the native species. I focus on making them more rounded, more cuddly, more friendship, I guess you could probably say, and as well for their colors to be more natural feeling, and where they're more realistic, I guess. And also for the creature dens, as you can see at the bottom, I made the coyote den, the cougar den, the beaver den, and two of the nests for the quail and the roadrunner as well.
So as one of the programmers, I developed the frame rate because if we have the frame rate, we can tell if the game is running smoothly. And if the frame rate slows down, the game basically crashes. And I also did part of the level user interface, such as designing the main menu and the buttons in it, and the almanac and its buttons as well. I also made the shop area, and I did a majority of the bug testing. For example, if you look carefully on the screen, we're placing the mule in the water, which shouldn't really be there. It should be on the forest, and the mule should be coming out.
Okay, so I was the designer on this team. So my work kind of came in a few phases. Early on, I kind of worked on ideation and species design. This is where I would mainly come up with the ideas for the various interactions and species we wanted to have in the game. On the right, you'll see some of my early brainstorming. Not all this made it into the game because originally I wanted it to be kind of like PvZ or Kingdom Rush, and each thing had like abilities and stuff like that. But due to kind of time constraints during the summer, we just didn't have the ability to make that happen within like 9 weeks or so. Later on, I moved to working with the in-game mechanics and numbers and level design. by numbers, I specifically mean like damage and health numbers, also like resource generation rates that you need to put new plants and animals down on the map and so forth. And I was also involved in playtesting for the game, both personally and based on user feedback.
As one of the programmers, my responsibilities included the A-star pathfinding algorithm, which the animals use to navigate their way around the levels, visual effects to give the game more of a life, and then also small amounts of bug testing and fixing.
All right, and as the project manager, my thing was organization and tasks using ClickUp, managing the Git repository to try to make sure there weren't any merge conflicts, because that is annoying to deal with as someone who has programmed. A little bit of data analysis on playtesting to try to make sure our game was as good as it could be, and also helping out everyone else in the team with a little bit of everything. I did some of the animation and rigging to help the artists. I helped the programmers with some of the scene work and audio, and I helped the designer with levels and upgrades. Now, let's talk a little bit about our goals.
Okay, so our game was made using the Unity engine. In designing this game, we wanted the players to feel meaningfully challenged, but still reasonably thoughtful and relaxed during the course of the game. This game was intended mainly for kind of late elementary, early middle school audience, so we didn't want the game to be too challenging or too easy, kind of somewhere right in that sweet spot. The game is meant to teach young people about species conservation and what invasive species can do in their kind of harmful roles in local ecosystems upon their introduction.
Well, those were our goals, but does the data back that up? Well, based on our data, the art was consistently one of our best aspects. From our first release all the way down to our last, people loved the art of the game. People also tend to like the game more once it had more content, which should surprise nobody. And the tutorialization, as it turns out, when you teach players how to play a game, they tend to like playing the game a little bit more. The one thing is the game might have been a little harder than we originally anticipated, but we still think it should be fun for anyone to play, especially those in the late elementary, early middle school age bracket.
Okay, so one of our primary principles was to feature a wide variety of wildlife, both plants and animals, for players to interact with. We wanted this to include a lot more than just the typical things you would think of, like local wildlife, like coyotes, deer. We wanted to extend this to more than mammals. We had time to include at least a few birds in there. We would have wanted to include amphibians, insects, and future biomes as well, although we didn't have time to get to that sort of stuff. We wanted to keep things as close to reality as possible, like at least some semi-realistic. We didn't want like plants shooting peas and missiles and stuff like in Plants vs. Zombies. A few examples of species you can find in the game are the coyote, roadrunner, feral cats and hogs, and the crimson fountain grouse.
All right, so one of the other mechanics we did get to implement into the game is an upgrade system, where after every level, you get a few upgrade points. And we decided that we wanted our upgrades to be about collective actions, things society can do, policy changes, things on the broad scale. While human intervention, one of the other mechanics in our game, is about the little things that we as individuals can do. And so, for example, some of our upgrades include surrogate rehabilitation, which was a really good way to fold the mechanics of critical hits with our gameplay story. Public support to get more resources at the start of the game, because more support always means more resources. And vaccination programs, because this isn't just a thing for pets, it's a thing we can do for wildlife as well.
Overall, the basic goal of the Almanac was to teach players about the real-world stories behind these species, as well as provide gameplay information. We gave it its common name, the scientific name, the gameplay information, world information, the fun facts. And if you look on the screen, that's the Almanac.
All right, so as you all know, we had nine weeks to make this game, and there was still a lot of stuff we wanted to do, but we just didn't quite make it in time due to scope constraints. But we have some plans. First of all, more levels and more habitats. We'd planned for wetlands, coast, and even an urban environment with their own species and their own challenges. Species abilities, like our designer talked about earlier, that was one of the plans from the get-go, but if we had a little bit more time, we'd actually be able to make every species feel truly unique with their own ability. A more modular human intervention system that just goes beyond get rid of these invasive plants or get rid of these invasive animals. And more species. We have the backend code to handle insect swarms, reptiles, and amphibians, and with just a little bit more time, we could have made all that in the game. We'd also like to have give some special thanks to Carolyn Taro Zhao, our mentor. So yes, Habitat Defenders. The game is now out on itch.io. You can find it in the room next door, as well as on the Andy Tech itch.io page. It's available now. You can play it or download it online or on all platforms. Thank you very much.
Good luck.
We have some time for questions. So if you have a question, you can either speak loudly or you can go up to one of these two mics. Go ahead.
Where do you get the information about the species and all the, the technical data behind that? Did the mentor bring that?
So it was mainly me. I was mainly reading Wikipedia pages and other informational online sources to get the role that these species played in the environment. I tried to keep them as close to San Diego as possible, although for some of the invasives that was a little difficult at times. Stats-wise, it's a little bit more arbitrary. We kind of just played with the numbers until they kind of fit together in a way that worked for the game. We had a lot of ups and downs with that. But it was quite the educational process for me, as well as hopefully anyone playing the game.
Yeah.
How did you manage to come together as a team in this short period and come out with a product? What were the difficulties you encountered, and also what were some surprising things that made you all work together?
I think the main thing here is you kind of said it yourself in that it was important to remind everyone that, yeah, this is a team effort. This is not my game or your game. This is our game. We made this together. And so I think that's just remembering that every day, basically, as we worked on it, is this is not my feature, your feature, my game, your game. This is our game. And if we didn't work together, I don't think we would have been able to come together and make this game as good as it was. But I think just remembering that we're a team here. We're working together to make the best thing we can make. I think that was what really helped keep us together on this project.
Thank you.